Hello chaps, welcome to John Robson Guitar Tuition once again. As ever, I do hope you're well. Before we get started today, just a little bit of a heads up. I've got another Harley Benton video in the offing. We're going to be looking at one of the Les Paul style models. It's the, I can't remember the model number, it'll be SC something or other, won't it? But it's basically the gold top with P90 pickups. We're going to be having a look at that. Probably next week that video will be up, so keep an eye open for that if you're interested in what Harley Benton do with a Les Paul gold top P90 kind of formula. Anyway, on to today's video. Basically what I thought I'd do today is take a look at 5 albums, 5 great guitar albums that I don't think get anywhere near the recognition they deserve. So if you're a fan of kind of rock guitar playing, bluesy, classic rock, that sort of thing, then check these out. You may find something to your liking that you have so far missed. There are links in the description box below to where you can listen to these albums, and if you like what you hear, then why not go out and buy them. So let's get cracking with the first one on the list. I'm going to be talking about Music Inspired by the Snow Goose by Camel. This is a fantastic album. It's one of those albums where you just want to sit and listen to it from beginning to end, and when you get to the end of it, you're left with that sort of satisfied feeling that you get having watched a good movie, or when you've eaten a good delicious 3-course meal with all the, you know, kind of accompanying wines. It's a beautiful, beautiful album. It was intended by the band, I'm told, that it was intended to be used as kind of a soundtrack to the book, the novella by Paul Gallico of The Snow Goose, which was made into a film, I think, in 1970, 71, sometime around then. It is a beautiful, beautiful album, and the guitar work on it is... it's not shredding, but then again, that's not what the album's about. It's an instrumental suite of tunes that evoke the emotional story of that novel. And even if you're not familiar with the novel or the film, it is still worth checking out. I mean, Andy Latimer, the guitarist in Camel, is just a master of the feel thing, really. It's just so full of beautifully crafted melodies and tasteful guitar playing that you don't realise is as skillful as it is until you start playing it. So yes, Music Inspired by the Snow Goose by Camel. Okay, now then, if you're a fan of Stevie Ray Vaughan, as I am, then you're probably aware that most of his albums have at least one track on them, and it's usually the final track on the album, I seem to recall, which is bluesy, but it's not a standard 12-bar blues. You know, if you think of Lenny from Texas Flood, or Stang's Swang from Couldn't Stand the Weather, those kind of tracks, if that's the kind of thing that floats your boat, then check out this album called Midnight Blue by Kenny Burrell. It's the oldest album on this list. It came out in what was a pretty magical year for jazz. There was a lot of great jazz albums in 1959. You know, Miles Davis Kind of Blue. What else? There was Mingus by Charles Mingus. There was, you know, a whole load of great jazz albums came out that year, and this is one of them. Now, do not be put off by the J word, jazz. I know a lot of people think of jazz as either being, you know, a cacophony of caterwauling tunelessness, or, you know, kind of, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Starlight Lounge, you know, kind of elevator music like that. This is not like that. It is just really great guitar playing, really. As I say, if you like that kind of Stang Swang, Lenny kind of stuff by Stevie Ray Vaughan, when Stevie is playing in a bluesy way but not on a strict blues kind of 12-bar sequence, then check out Midnight Blue by Kenny Burrell. Now then, next up we have Roger Waters' first solo album after leaving Pink Floyd, The Pros and Cons of Hitchhiking. Now, to my mind, this should really have been a joint album, because Eric Clapton plays a big part in the reason why I love this album. Frankly, it was the best album that Eric Clapton made throughout the entire 1980s. He plays some fantastic lead guitar on this, especially on the title track, and I think this was probably one of the last instances where he was still using his famous black mongrel Strat Blackie, and just the sound, the guitar tone he gets on this is fantastic. If you are familiar with Pink Floyd's final Roger Waters album, The Final Cut, then you will no doubt recognise some of the musical ideas on The Pros and Cons of Hitchhiking. I kind of heard them the other way around. I heard Pros and Cons of Hitchhiking first, then I heard The Final Cut, and that's how I kind of approach it. But to my ears, the ideas are more successfully realised on The Pros and Cons of Hitchhiking, and that's why it's on this list. Not many people seem to know about it. Certainly not many people who are fans of Clapton know about it. So if you want to hear what Eric was up to when he was really on form in the 1980s, take a listen to this album. Okay, next up we have one of the finest albums, I think, that Steve Morse ever made. He of Deep Purple these days. Obviously he's released many of his own solo albums, but for me his crowning glory, his finest achievement, is an album called What If, by a band he was in called the Dixie Dregs. If you were a fan of the Friday Rock Show on BBC Radio 1 back in the 1980s with old Tommy Vance, bless him, then you will know at least one track off this album, because it was used as the intro music for the show. It's the opening track off the album called Take It Off the Top, and it's got kind of a sort of proggy kind of feel to it, maybe a bit fusiony, but this whole album, I mean, it goes through, you go through to a track like Gina Lola Breakdown, which is just pure unadulterated toe-tapping country music, but with kind of shreddy guitar, very much in the same mould. If you're familiar with Guthrie Govan, his Erotic Cakes album, which almost made it onto this list, his Erotic Cakes album has a track on it called Rhode Island Shred, which is again that sort of yeehaw toe-tapping country stuff, but with, you know, mad guitar on it. It's brilliant. Then you've got kind of other jazz funk things like Ice Cakes, and the final track on the album, I always get this the wrong way around, let me just double check. It is called Night Meets Light. For some reason I always want to call it Light Meets Night. Just one of the most achingly gorgeous melodies you will ever hear. So yes, check out What If by the Dixie Dregs. Now then, final album on this list is Backstreet Symphony by Thunder, a band who, if there were any justice in the world, I think would have been as big as Guns N' Roses. I think they were just that little bit too late getting signed, and by the time they'd sort of, I mean, they played Donington in 1990 when Whitesnake headlined with Steve Vai. And it was just on the cusp. They were just kind of getting into the big leagues when the whole kind of grunge thing took over, and, you know, classic rock kind of faded away a little bit. But if you're a fan of bands like Bad Company or Kiss, or, you know, any of that good proper rock from the 70s, let's put it like that, then check out anything by Thunder, but their first album, Backstreet Symphony. And there's a brilliant cover of the old Spencer Davis tune, Gimme Some Lovin' on there. And I'm not usually a fan of the big power ballad as a style of music. I think it's been, frankly, overdone these days. But the sort of token ballad on that album, a track called Love Walked In, is just stupendously good. And Luke Morley's guitar playing on that track in particular, but on the whole album in general, is just something to behold. So there you have it. There are 5 great guitar albums that you may have missed. Apologies if you already knew about all of these, but I'm guessing there's probably 1 or 2 on there that are new to you, so go and check them out. And whilst I'm on the topic of great guitar albums, how could I resist a plug for my 2 albums that are out at the moment, Handles for Forks and The Whiskey Made Me Do It, full of great guitar playing, even though I say so myself. You can get them on all major platforms, iTunes, Amazon, Google Play, Spotify, all the usual places basically, so check them out. And if you live on Teesside in the northeast of England and you would like some tailored one-to-one guitar tuition, then get in touch with me via the details at the end of this video. And even if you don't live on Teesside, get in touch anyway, because you can also have a lesson via Skype. And with that, I'll say goodbye for now. I'll see you all again next time, and have a nice day, folks. Bye for now.